Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the Weekly Comic Book Roundup. We've already covered this week's X-Men and Avengers books. Well, kind of, sort of this week's. We'll call it. I guess this past week's would be better, given the timing. But we'll be moving on to this week's King in Black tie-in. Starting with King in Black Namor, number 4. Where we left off. The Black Tide, formerly known as the Swift Tide, was swiftly making their way through Atlantis, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. And Namor, Droma, and Atuma could all feel where they were. The issue begins in the present with Namor trying to reach the Black Tide, being told that the force they sent to investigate being told by his advisor Andromeda that the force sent to investigate a specific trench is dead, and so Namor goes himself. Back to in the past, however, Atuma's enmity towards Atlantis truly begins with him blaming Atlantis for the death of his tribe. As he swims off, Droma and Namor find a not yet dead member who basically says, hey, it's not your fault. But this lone survivor tells Droma of a specific ritual to perform that could potentially stop the Black Tide. Atuma then returns, having fashioned an armor out of the bones of the sea dragon, and if anything, he will at least remain allied with Droma and Namor long to avenge his family. The Black Tide then arrives near the capital, but they're met with the force of Atlantean warriors, and so the Black Tide raises their own army of the dead, which swiftly overtake the Atlantean battle. The Atlantean warriors. But Namor then arrives, and Droma tries to start up the ritual, but something has gone very wrong. So it won't work. And once again, the three are left to tell the tale. And so Namor tells his mother and the Emperor exactly what's happened. And the leader of the forces that were supposed to hold off the Black Tide apologizes to the Emperor only to basically, hey, look, you did what you could, man. When, of all things, Ambrose, Droma's pet, returns, mutated by the dark energies. Mutated, in fact, in part because Ambrose found the Unforgotten Stone and has brought it to Namor and his allies, which is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our next book, Symbiote Spider-Man, King in Black, number 4. Where we left off, Spider-Man, Kang, Rocket Raccoon, Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, and Black Knight all went to nowhere, basically, to ensure that the shadow creature they were chasing that was inhabiting the body of Alistair Smythe didn't destroy the ebony blade. Mr. E being the name of the shadow creature. However, as Mr. E arrived at the shop of a blacksmith, of a troll blacksmith, rock troll blacksmith named Alicia, well, somebody else arrived. Alicia's brother, Ulick. Turns out that it's normal for troll siblings to try to kill each other, survival of the fittest and whatnot. However, the fight is broken up. The fight between Mr. E and Ulick is broken up by Namor Chief of Security, Cosmo. But Mr. E is then intercepted by Spider-Man, Rocket, Kang, Monica Rambeau, and Black Knight, to whom the Ebony Blade is returned. Also, Kang is able to remove Mr. E from Alistair Smythe. Sending him to the showroom of the Collector. Back at Alicia's shop, Ulick shows up once again, smashing through a wall, and Alicia rips into him saying, hey, did you really have to destroy the wall? There's a door right there. And she explains that, it does kind of seem like it's made clear that the reason Alicia is on Nowhere is to avoid her brother, so that because she doesn't want to kill him and she doesn't want to die either. So but yeah, Spider-Man hits Ulick a few times, but it doesn't do much good. Though Cosmo delivers a psychic assist. But Alicia does stop the Earth from hurting him and proceeds to punch him in the face. Turns out, though, Ulick wasn't there to kill his sister. That was just an added perk to him. He was there for the Ebony Blade. As for who sent Ulick, why, none other than Uatu, the Watcher. After all, Uatu wants the blade so that so that a being named Null who wishes to annihilate the universe can be stopped. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to King in Black, Return of the Valkyries, number 4. Where we'd left off, we'd learned the origin of the Headless Celestial. And technically also the origin of Nowhere. As the body, Nowhere being built in the dead skull of a Celestial, well, that skull had to come from a body. Well, Now we know where the body is. It's linked to All Black, the Necro Sword, and basically has a necropolis within it at this point. But as for our crew of Valkyries, we've got Jane Foster. We've got who was supposed to be taking the Sentry, who was recently slain by Null, into the afterlife. A nameless Valkyrie. And looks like also joining the fight are Danny Moonstar and Hildegard of the Warriors 3. So we start with the Sentry, actually. Being questioned by some essence relating to Null and the Celestial. He explains, as he tries to answer, he's being asked who he is, then every time he says I, he's told he's wrong, but yeah. Hildegard talks about her training, or flashes back to her training before we pick back up with her, Jane, and Danny in New York, facing off with a dragon. The three of them manage to take down one of Null's dragons, while in Vanaheim, our other Valkyrie is retrieving her axe, Yarnborn. Though it does take a bit of effort. It has a bit of a chat with Mr. Horse while having a drink and thinking back on basically what she's been up to for eons. Danny and Jane Foster ride off together, while in Valhalla, Brunhild goes to speak to Ivanir, Weaver of Realities. Looks like she's wanting to join in the fight, but Jane and the other Valkyrie and the nameless Valkyrie basically managed to disconnect a few things from Null. Hildegard fights the Null-controlled storm. Okay, so it's not the name. It's Danny Moonstar that's with Jane Foster. The nameless Valkyrie is getting nice and drunk while Hildegard receives her sign from Danny and Jane, and yeah. However, I'm trying to use various mystical artifacts, all Asgardian artifacts, all in tandem. Yeah, it doesn't work the way they want, and as the issue ends, Hildegard is being taken over by the symbiote goo. Which brings us to our next book, and I do believe this week's final King in Black tie-in. Black Cat number 3. Where we left off, Black Cat had managed to free Doctor Strange from his symbiotic prison, but he was unconscious, and things were looking rather grim, so she utilized the Asgardian scepter that her and Bats were bringing to Doctor Strange. And got a bit of an upgrade. That said, we kind of already know from King in Black #4 that the upgrade has gone away. In her head, she ends up running into Black Fox. Well, she thinks it's Black Fox, but it's explained promptly that it's simply using a familiar shape to speak with her. The entity in question being basically the magic of the scepter. And so it's basically, and so magic of the scepter explains that magic is governed by rules. The magic itself wants to be free, to burn bright and beautiful and carve its mark upon creation. But in order to do so, it requires a conduit, one that must provide consent. And so, Felicia asks what's in it for her. And explain power, the power of creation itself. So, Felicia's attention has peaked, and she kind of, okay, you got I'm interested. Let's say I'm interested. You gotta buy me dinner first. Even adding that she's not that kind of girl, but the man goes, "Oh, you certainly are." But she explains that talk is cheap and she has expensive taste, so give her a taste. And so the power within the scepter says, okay, what do you suggest? And she said, her crew is sitting ducks out there. That's on her. And those dragons are coming to pick them off. So she wants to punish the dragons. And she does so. But Felicia then has to relive a few things, like the time she felt powerless because her mother had lied to her about her father's death. He got arrested. He had called her to say, "Hey, tell Felicia I died." And eventually, Felicia got broke out of jail, so he could die in his own bed. But they talk about, but they also reminisce on some of the not so great times. Getting injured in a gang war between the Owl and Dr. Octopus. Meanwhile, in the real world, Doctor Strange comes to and discovers that Black Cat's using his guardian artifact. But basically, then we get a bit of, hey, look, let's look at your bad decisions. And then there's a quick shot of the time that basically Eddie Brock really messed her up, and there's a reason she's not too fond of Venom. But she says to the power within the scepter, if you're trying to get me to say yes, quit showing me guys who beat me up. You can't break me down. So basically, door numbers 1, 2, and 3. You've got door number 1, her standing triumphant and powerful, holding Null's severed head, and standing atop at least unconscious bodies of Venom, Kingpin, the Owl, and Dr. Octopus. Okay, that she likes. Then her with power, wearing the Infinity Gauntlet, power and riches. Wearing the Infinity Gauntlet. Doom, Xavier, Black Bolt, Captain America bowing at her feet, Cap holding a quite a bit. Also, the offer of bringing her dad back from the dead. You know, and something else, death to her. Not only will her enemies be defeated and she'll have the treasure of the universe, but love. Every heart she's broken, healed. Every lover who left her, returned to her side. And that is what gets her. Basically, convincing Felicia to go again, to say, nope, not interested. Felicia saying, you offered me ashes. I don't want to make someone love me with magic. And so she gives up the scepter, and, well, Doctor Strange admits he's actually kind of impressed. He thought Felicia was going to kill them all. And she does explain the game got that close. And so, Black Cat suggests that Doctor Strange sent her crew to safety, and she sticks around for the big fight. This is where the issue ends. Pretty much the same spot where leading right into the end of King in Black #4. The only problem I really have with this issue is that it came out after King in Black #4. I think it needed to come out beforehand. Don't get me wrong. Yes, the journey is more important than the destination. But sometimes if you know where the destination is going to be, the journey isn't as much fun. I feel like it makes any sense. Anyways, moving on to our next book. The Union, #3. So the Union has ended its brief tie-in cycle to King in Black, with technically the book now taking place in the aftermath of King in Black. Where we left off, the team had disbanded after the death of Britannia, and Quire's brief possession by Null's symbiotic goo. But Union Jack was basically told, Britannia might not be here to lead the team, but hey, you are, if you want to stay out of the Tower of London. So we begin in North Wales. A shopkeeper named Ishao Basha is having his shop robbed, and turns out the Choir is also lives near there, and prevents the robbery. We also get a look at the Choir, at the parts of her that her costume usually covers. It seems she's got some cybernetics built into her. But the shopkeeper basically says, hey, what you're getting on the house, least I can do. But at the end there, he kind of stammers out that the last part went upon seeing Quire's face. Quire turns out to stay in a caravan, North Wales, and she walks in, and but she has a guest waiting on her. In Manchester, Union Jack is woken up by Selwyn, basically his boss. They need to knock on the door. And look, can't see anyone through the peephole though. But Selwyn suggested that Union Jack's away from the door, as a rather diminutive British shirt named Bulldog is on the other side and kicks it through. Apparently, he was supposed to be a backup member, a reserve member of the team, but in light of Britannia's death, maybe it's time to call in the reserves. So, Bulldog and Union Jack duke it out while someone waits for them to finish up outside. In North Wales, Quire's on the run. Makes a call, explains to the person she's calling they found her, and then The phone box is then destroyed. On the road, Union Jack and Bulldog. Bulldog kind of sort of apologizes. He's like, "Hey, that's how the whole superhero thing goes, right? We meet for the first time, we fight, then we team up against the bad guys." But Selwyn, Union Jack, and Bulldog arrive at the remains of Quire's caravan, as do Snakes and Kelpie. Bulldog's none too happy with them. But Dog comes up upon them, and Bulldog tries to talk, but it turns out to be a shapeshifter. Hop turns into a butterfly, which Union Jack catches, and then a tiger, then a dolphin, then a gorilla, leading to Snakes, showing that he is literally Snakes. And the shapeshifter has his powers kind of turned off. And Selwyn talks to the shapeshifter and convinces the shapeshifter to take him prisoner, and says take him, tells him to take him in the car, put him in the driver's side, and he'll get them out of there. And so they get in. Turns out Selwyn used to be a super by the name of the Sponge. He would soak up the powers from any super character in the immediate vicinity. A very useful power for a superhero. But he was a villain. He's part of the Doc's gang along with Shifter. But Selwyn, well, yeah, his powers faded a bit, but they're still there. And apparently Shifter's lasted quite a bit longer than someone anticipated, so you started to think maybe his powers had faded even more than he thought. But Selwyn kills Shifter and makes it look as though Shifter did it himself. Turns out though that the mastermind behind what happened with the gang leader they worked for, and who also employed Quire for a while, is known as Doc Croc. And someone says that if Doc Croc gets his hands on Quire, he'll be unstoppable. Well, turns out Doc Croc's got her, which is where the issue ends. Which brings us to the last book for this video. Maestro, War and Pax, #2. Where we left off, the Maestro was looking to expand his domain on a global scale, going after a group that actually helped him on his way to New York. A group that included Machine Man. Well, their group managed to escape and take their supplies with them, with a copy of Machine Man sacrificing itself to hold them off. Meanwhile, the Pantheon began to take an interest in the Maestro's deeds. Around the same time, they received a visitor, Victor Von Doom. So, the issue begins outside the Pantheon secret base. Doom basically uses his time platform to get from outside to outside the base inside. Of course, they want to. Pantheon members want to start shit because it's Doctor Doom. Okay, when Doctor Doom shows up in your secret base, you're allowed to question it and want to fight him because your secret base, right? Of course, Doom's a bit more powerful than the members of Pantheon. And, yeah. So, after taking one of them down, he gets some tea and they discuss things. And he explains what's going on, and turns out this is Doom from the past. Well, probably closer to the present, but he explains that as the Hulk wishes to conquer the world, well, Doom would like to live in this world. He is, after all, capricious. But so they begin to they start to plan, and one thought does come on: they could they could turn Maestro back into Banner. If they can turn him back into Banner, they can take him down, kill him, or at least imprison him. Doom likes the plan. They just have to figure out how to do it. Back in New York at Alchemax, the Dogs of War are being refitted by Banner. As Maestro has guests. Pantheon. A brief scuffle erupts when Banner kind of makes an entrance and Ajax doesn't appreciate it. But everyone gets calmed down. They discuss things, and it does seem as though Pantheon is actually there as allies. They've got some problems with AIM. And they explain that AIM killed one of their own, so they want to get revenge. So they head towards it, and Maestro begins to ask questions, however. Of course, first he asks the leader of the Pantheon, then he asks the same question of Ajax, who's not exactly the brightest member of the team. But everyone gets ready for a fight, and then Banner starts to have trouble operating his body, speaking, and it's explained that high-powered knockout gas has been flooding into the cabin to take out a herd of blue whales, so it can definitely handle him. And Pantheon's wearing nose filters, so they're immune. And so they informed him that Phase 1 is complete, now on to Phase 2, as Maestro passes out. We have a backup story, the Black Scythe, showing the death of, basically showing the death of Prometheus, as Delphi and Ulysses watch. But Delphi is takes responsibility, and in fact, Prometheus blames her. She could have with her, her precognitive abilities, could have told him, what was going to happen. Instead, actually, she didn't mention that the Black Scythe would kill him. But They so Atalanta call basically, they need to be in a situation room so they can take care of the black scythe. So they can take care of the black scythe, and get some revenge for the late Prometheus. That is where the issue ends. That's it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.